I know that pain has been hurting you for a very long time. And it just makes you feel like something is wrong with you. It isn't. It's just a room that has never been properly dealt with, and it's running your life from underneath. Hey, listen. Today we're going to talk about how to break that cycle and actually how to deal with those wounds that's been hurting you for a very long time. We're going to call this hurt people, but heal people, build things. Hey, listen, I am Cliff Watson. This is the Mind Your Business podcast. Stay tuned. It's going to be great. Welcome to Mind Your Business podcast. This is where we build off those three pillars: business development, personal mastery, and spiritual maturity. But before I get into today's text, let me remind you of where we've been. Hey, listen, episode 1 is called You're Richer Than You Think. Most of us are sitting on unrealized assets, and we're treating them like they can wait. And episode 1 actually deals with how to deal with that. Episode 2, it talks about survival mode. Survival mode, we talk about survival mode as a trap, not a season. Your past doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It's raw material, not a disqualifier. And today we're gonna go deeper. We're gonna not just talk about Esau's trade anymore. We're asking why people keep making the same painful trades over and over, or they keep going down those same painful patterns and keep going down the same road, and what it takes to actually break that cycle. Here's the mechanism that makes everything in today's text make sense. Pain that is not processed becomes a posture. It becomes your posture. A posture held long enough becomes a pattern. So if I sit in this chair like this all the time, I'm gonna end up having that pattern that when I sit down, this is how I'm going to sit. So posture becomes a pattern. A pattern repeated long enough becomes a personality. And a personality passed down, it actually becomes a culture. So here, I want you to understand, we go from pain to posture to pattern, personality to culture, and that is Esau to Edom. That's what we're going to see. That is Esau to Edom. That's the Esau-Edom progression. And when you understand where you are in it, you can't interrupt it at any stage. You can interrupt it at any stage, but you have to be able to see it first. So here's point number 1. Unhealed pain always finds an exit. Unhealed pain always finds an exit. Genesis 25:34. Please read this with me, or listen to me if you don't have it. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Look at the sequence. He ate, he drank, then he got up, and then he left with no hesitation, no grief, not looking back, not feeling bad about what he did. That level of emotional disconnection for something as significant as a generational inheritance, that's not normal. That's not normal. So that lets you know that Esau's mind out in the open country was just, it was just bewildered. It was just being messed up because he was in the wrong place that was keeping him exhausted. And so his response is not normal. That is what unprocessed pain looks like. Esau had to have been hurt by maybe the years of a family system. Who knows? Maybe because he knew his father favored his brother, kind of a dysfunctional kind of family. And instead of processing, any of that pain, he did what most of us do. He stayed busy. When he did busy, he went away from everything. He went out into the open country. He stayed in the field. He kept producing. He kept moving. And unhealed pain doesn't stay quiet. Unhealed pain doesn't stay quiet. When you do that, it finds a way to come out. It comes out sideways, if you will. It shows up in the way you make decisions. It shows up in your relationships, your reactions. Sometimes you wonder why you just blow up about stuff, or why this other person is just blowing up about something. Usually it comes from unhealed pain. For Esau, it came out as contempt for the birthright that he despised. It came out for contempt. He despised it for that birthright, for that covenant, for everything that required him to sit still long enough to feel what he had been running from. He literally despised it. And basically, we're tying that into his birthright. But here's a question for you. What are you staying busy to avoid? What are you staying busy to avoid? Again, a key principle I want to remind you of: unhealed pain doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It goes underground and runs your decision from underneath the surface. Watch this. Here in Cleveland, where we are, we have Lake Erie. It's a freshwater lake, and Lake Erie can be very tricky. It looks calm on the surface, but many times what Lake Erie does is it has this undercurrent under it. And if you don't know how to navigate when you're in that water, if you don't know how to navigate that undercurrent will suck you in. On the surface, it looks calm, but underneath, there's a current that could pull you under. And that's what unhealed pain looks like. Listen, I'm gonna need you to roll with me on this one. Stay with me, because I got a lot of information to give you about how your body responds to this pain. It's gonna be great information, so hang in with me. Listen, a pattern always reveals the wound, and here's why your brain keeps running it. Look at your patterns, not your intentions, your patterns, the things that keep happening despite your best efforts. The pattern is always pointing back to the wound. But I want to go deeper than that today, because most people have never been told what has actually happened inside them when a pattern runs. And when you understand the mechanism, when you understand why your brain does what it does, you stop feeling crazy. You stop blaming your willpower. I don't have the willpower not to do this. And you start dealing with the thing that actually needs to be dealt with. Here's what your brain is actually doing. Your brain's number one job, listen, is not to make you happy. It's to keep you alive. It does that by recognizing threats as fast as possible. So when something painful happens, a betrayal, an abandonment, and a humiliation, a loss, your brain doesn't just file it as a memory, it files it as a survival lesson. It builds what scientists call a threat template in your brain, a blueprint of what of what that danger looked like, what it felt like, what it sounded like. And from that point forward, your brain is constantly scanning your environment, looking for anything that matches that template. This happens in the part of the brain that they consider the alarm system. It's a technical name for it, but it's too big for me to pronounce for you. But they call it the alarm system of your brain, and it operates faster than your conscious thought. So you react before you can even realize why. That's not weakness. That's biology, that's science. It's how we were made. But here's the part that most people have never heard. Your brain is just not trying to protect you from the wound. It's actually trying to resolve it. Psychologists, called this repetition compulsion. Your brain keeps recreating the scenario that resembles the original wound because it's unconsciously trying to rewrite the ending. If you were abandoned as a child, your brain will keep pulling you towards relationships where abandonment is possible, not because it wants you to get hurt again, but because it's still looking for the version of that scenario where you don't get abandoned, where you finally get chosen, where the ending is different. The brain is not punishing you. It is still trying to fix something that was never fixed the first time. And without actual healing, without going back to the root belief that wound created and dealing with it at that level, the brain never gets the resolution that it's looking for. So it keeps running that pattern. Different person, same dynamic. Different situation, same outcome. Different year, same feeling. Because the template is still active and the resolution never came. There's one more thing you need to know. And there's a neuroscience phrase, has a phrase that neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time the pattern runs, the neural pathway gets more reinforced, more automatic, more deeply grooved, which is why people who have been in the pattern for years find it so hard and even harder to break, even when they desperately want to. It's harder to break that cycle even when they desperately want to. The pathway is not just a habit at that point, it is a highway. And changing it requires more than willpower. It requires going back to the place where the road was first built, or going back to what first hurt you, and rebuilding it from that foundation. In other words, it requires you to get some help. So there's a book called The Body Takes Score. It's a great book to actually read and even learn more about what I've just shared. And there's nothing wrong. Listen, there's nothing wrong with going to get some help on the mental side of things. You know, we go and get our physical bodies taken care of. And yes, you have to go and make sure the mental or whatever in your life that has hurt you is dealt with as well, because it's just as important as making sure your physical body is taken care of. Listen, Esau's brain wasn't broken. It was doing what exactly brains do with unprocessed pain. It was building a threat. It was building a threat template around vulnerability, around the covenant, around the things that required him to feel. And every time he went back to the field, instead of staying in the tent, that pathway got more reinforced until the day a bowl of stew triggered the template and his brain made the fastest decision it knew how to make. Eliminate the discomfort. I'm hungry. Eliminate it. Get relief. Move on. Because the open country was not doing that for him. He wasn't being weak. He was just being human, which is exactly why the healing has to go deeper than just willpower. The first step to breaking the pattern is not trying harder. It's asking, what is this pain pattern trying to tell me about something that has never been healed? Okay? So listen, point number 2. This is what I want you to get in point number 2. Pain that is not processed becomes an identity. Look at this. Look at this. We cannot let this get by. Genesis 25, verse 30. That is why he was also called Edom. He ate the red stew. That's why he was also called Edom. God uses Moses to drop this on him. That is why he was also called Edom. Most people read right past that. But I need you to stop there for a second because God uses Moses to go into something very deep and intentional here. Edom comes from the Hebrew word Edom, A-D-O-M, meaning red. And here's what's significant. Esau was born red. You see that in verse 25 of 25 in Genesis 25:25. It tells us that he came out covered in red hair. He craved the red stew. And now his name is Edom, the red one. His physical appearance at birth, his appetite in his worst moment, and his permanent name in history all come from the same Hebrew root word. God is using Moses to connect 3 things on purpose. What Esau looked like, what Esau wanted, and what Esau became. And the message is this: his identity was never bigger than his appetite. Now, in Hebrew culture, a name was not just a label. A name was a declaration. It carried weight of character, destiny, and legacy. When God renamed Abram to Abraham, it meant the father of many nations. That name change was covenantal and a declaration about who Abraham was becoming, and what he was called to produce in this world, his purpose. When God renamed Jacob to Israel, one who wrestles with God, that was a declaration of a new identity built through an encounter with God and then transformation. Esau's renaming worked the same way, but in reverse. Those two were good. This one is not so good. Instead of God declaring a new identity through covenant, the people around him declared an identity through contempt. They got an identity through contempt. They didn't name him after his skill. The people around him didn't name him after his skill. His name wasn't named after his birthright position. His name came because of the very moment he couldn't control himself. Edom, the very moment that he couldn't control himself. And after the thing he was willing to trade everything for. That's what he was named for. He couldn't control himself. He was named after that. And the very thing that he was willing to trade everything for, that's what he was named after. After his appetite, what he was hungry for. I'm painting a picture for you. And here's what makes this so sobering. Esau never challenged that name. He never said anything about it. He never did anything different in order to be called something different. He never pressed back against it. He never said, that is not who I am. Not who I am. He just became it. Edom, the red one, defined by the worst moment of the rest of his life and for the generation after him. His children and his descendants were called Edomites, not because of anything they personally did, but because they were born into the identity their father's uncontrolled appetite created. The name followed the family line for centuries. And every time you read the word Edom in the Old Testament, you read it, and you read it a lot, but you read it because of the consequence of one man's decision to let his hunger and immediate gratification define him inside of his calling. I want to ask you something, and I need you to sit with it honestly. What are people naming you right now based on what you consistently reach out for, what they see you consistently reach out for? Not what you say you value, not what you say you value, what you actually pursue when the pressure is on, what you can't say no to when you're being depleted, because the people around you are always watching you. They may not say anything, but the people around you are watching you. I'll never forget, I'm a preacher, pastor, and I'm driving to work. This is back when I was in the trade. When I get, and while I was driving, a guy cut me off, and I didn't say anything about it. It was funny to me because he rushing and speeding and trying to get in front of me, and we end up at the same light at the same time. I mean, didn't bother me at all. But when I got to work, one of the guys came up to me. He said, "Man, you didn't cuss that guy out for cutting you off?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Wow." And he was amazed at the fact that I was able to hold myself like that. But I wasn't going to make a decision at the bad moment that could have ended up, road rage and all that stuff. Who knows where that would have went? Man, if you in a rush, just go. And so, like I said, as that guy was watching me, I didn't even know he was around me. As he was watching, people are always watching you, and they are always forming an opinion about what defines you. The question is whether that opinion is being shaped by your calling, your purpose, what God placed you on this earth for, or by your appetite and the things that you want right now in the immediate gratification and the pursuit of the world. Or is it really your calling and your purpose? Be careful what you keep saying yes to when you're depleted, when you're exhausted. It might become your name. That may be what people talk about you as. And your children might have to carry the fact that that was your name. This is the second stage of the progression. Pain becomes a posture, and posture becomes a pattern. And a pattern held long enough becomes your personality, the way people know you, the name they give you. For some people listening today, that identity sounds like angry, closed off, hard to reach, always suspicious, conspiracy theorist, never letting people in. They are not personality traits. Those are wounds wearing a name tag in your life. Listen to this key principle. I want to remind you. When pain becomes your identity, you stop asking, how do I heal? and you start asking, how do I protect this? And protected wounds never close. Protected wounds never close. Listen, the names you've accepted are not the names God gave you. Felon, failure, addict, abandoned, cheater, unwanted, too much, not enough. You've been living inside those names or that name for so long, it feels like the truth about you. But in scripture, when God wanted to break a painful identity cycle, the first thing he did was change the person's name. That's why Abram became Abraham. That's why Jacob became Israel. That's why Simon became Peter. The change wasn't cosmetic, it was covenantal. What name do you need to stop answering to? Go to point number 3. Patterns become culture. Patterns become culture, and here's the three stages. Genesis 36, verse 1. It says, "This is the account of the family line of Esau. That is Edom." Genesis 36. It opens with these words. This is the family account of the line of Esau. That is Edom. What one man's unhealed wound is now a family line. The pattern became a culture, and that culture carried Esau's unhealed pain for generations. Can you imagine that? That's why he's called Edom. And that carries out for generations, and we see it out throughout the whole entire Old Testament, and we're reading it today. So here's the Edom warning, 3 stages of contempt. Number 1, stage 1, separation. Genesis 36, the first thing pain does is it begins to try to create distance. Not always dramatically, unusually quiet. You stop showing up fully. You stop investing in the relationships that could actually help you. And those relationships could possibly help you heal, because those relationships require you to be honest about where you're hurting. Over time, that emotional distance becomes a physical one. Genesis 36 records that Esau eventually settled in Seir, away from the covenant community, away from the relationships that required accountability and vulnerability. That separation felt like freedom to him, but it was actually the wound doing what wounds do when they're never treated, pulling you away from the very things that could have closed those wounds. In family, this looks like emotional unavailability. In business, it looks like the leader who is physically present but is relationally absent. The separation feels like self-protection, but it's actually isolation, and isolation is where wounds actually fester. Okay? Stage 2 is refusal. Numbers 20, verse 14 through 21. Centuries later, when Israel needed to pass through Edom's territory, Edom refused. The second stage is where unhealed pain hardens into a posture of refusal. You stop being hurt and start being hard. You don't refuse people because you want to hurt them. You refuse people because you've decided that openness costs too much. So you got that hard layer in front, and many times we call it a wall. You ever met somebody that's got that wall up front, and your initial encounter with them is like, man, they mean, or man, I can't get to them. But once you actually get past that wall, they're some of the coolest, sweetest people in the world. You ever notice that? Those are the people that's that hardness. In business, this looks like a leader who can't receive feedback. You ever seen that guy when he's in business and he's making money and you try to give him some feedback and he's resistant to it, like you telling him he don't know what he's doing. He can't collaborate. He can't trust people. The hardness feels like that hardness becomes the feel. It portrays itself and it deceives you that it's strength, but it's actually the womb doing what wombs do. Okay. Stage 3 is celebrating other people's pain. This one just I can't stand when people celebrate somebody else's pain. But look at Psalms 137. This is all biblical. Psalms 137:7. Look at what the Bible says. When Babylon destroyed Jerusalem, Edom cheered. Look at what Edom did. They cheered. This is the final stage where unhealed pain has so completely taken over that you are genuinely glad when you see people suffer. You call it justice. You call it karma. But what it actually is pain that has been carried so long, it has turned into something that destroys everything around you, including the person who's carrying it, and that's you. Number 4. Here's number 4. Point number 4. The pattern breaks where the healing starts. Look at Obadiah. Obadiah is a book in the Bible. I know many of you don't read that book or have never heard of it, but if you look at the table of contents in the Old Testament, it's there. It's one of the minor prophets. Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, it says, because of the violence done to your brother, Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. Obadiah delivers the verdict over Edom. Cut off forever. A progression that was never interrupted. Pain that was never processed. A wound that was never healed. But here is the good news. You can interrupt the progression right now. At whatever stage you're at. Breaking the pattern starts with one thing. Honest acknowledgement. Naming the wound for what it is instead of building a whole identity around protecting it. Because you cannot heal what you will not name, and you cannot break what you refuse to look at. Listen, you're trying to protect it, but you cannot heal what you will not name. And that's being honest about it. That's what I mean by naming it. Just being honest what it is. And you cannot break what you refuse to look at. You can't break the cycle. You can't break that pattern of that one thing that you refuse to take a look at. You have to look the person in the mirror. Look at that person in the mirror and be honest about what's hurting them. Key principle. I want to remind you. The pattern breaks where the honesty starts. You cannot heal, again, what you won't name. Heal people, build things. Listen, that phrase, hurt people, it always bothered me. It's just like the thing that says, just say no to drugs. Okay, I'm gonna say no to drugs, but you don't give me an alternative to do something. Hurt people, and they just end it there. Like, you know, I know people are saying it because it's wrong, but it's almost like it's okay. Well, hurt people, it's okay. But I want to give you this. Here's what I say. Hurt people, but heal people, build things. Heal people, build things. And the reason healed people can build things is not because their life became easier. It's because they stopped spending their energy managing their womb and started spinning it, building on their calling, on their purpose in life. You imagine that? All of that energy that you're using to protect the womb, to put up the wall, to be, to celebrate other people's downfalls, and to be that person that's refusing, and all of that negative energy that you're using. Think about it. If you healed that womb, you could start using it and spinning it to build your purpose in life and get to the next level. That's what we hear at Mind Your Business. Is all about helping you use what you have to get you to the next level. But in order to use what you have to get to the next level, you gotta deal with the pain and the hurt and the wounds. Healing it's just not a spiritual discipline. It's a strategy. It's a strategy for your business. All right. It's a strategy for your parenting. It's a legacy strategy. And what I mean by that is you gotta heal in order to be better in business, to be a better parent. You can be a better parent to your children if you deal with the pain in your life. It's a legacy strategy. It puts you in a position to leave a legacy in this world, because when you heal, you free up resources that you have locked inside because of that womb for years. You free it up. Here's point number 5, the pattern breaking framework. Here's the pattern breaking framework in 4 steps. All right. Step number 1, name the womb, not just the person. I'm going to repeat that. Name the womb, not just the person. The wound is deeper than the person who caused it. The wound is the belief that got formed when whatever it is that happened. I'm not safe. I cannot trust people. I will always be abandoned. I'm not enough. Name the belief that the wound created, not just the event. The belief is what is running your patterns. What do you believe because of that wound? Step number 2, trace the pattern backwards. Take the pattern that's kept repeating and trace it backwards. Not to who caused it, to when you first felt that feeling. The first time you felt abandoned. First time you felt you weren't enough. The first moment is where those wounds start and they live there. And that is where the healing needs to happen, back where it first started. Step number 3 is really important, really important. Break the agreement. Break the agreement. The wound survives because you made an agreement with it. An agreement that belief, an agreement that the belief it actually created in you is true. But breaking the pattern requires you to break the agreement out loud, verbally and spiritually, declaring that that the belief the wound created is a lie, and replacing it with the truth of what God says about you. I am enough. I am valuable. So you have to replace it with what God says about you. And God has a purpose for your life. Step 4, do the thing the womb told you to avoid. Do the thing that the womb told you to avoid. The womb didn't just hurt you. It gave you instructions. And you've been following those instructions ever since. Step 4 is where you stop following them. Whatever it trained you to close off, open it. Whatever it trained you to withhold, give it. Whatever it trained you to run from, walk towards it. If it trained you to believe people can't be trusted, do the one thing the womb told you avoid. Let somebody in until they prove they can't be trusted. Don't just think people can't be trusted right off the bat. Have an honest conversation with one person this week about where you actually are. You know the people around you that really care about you. Have an honest conversation with them this week about where you actually are. Not performing, you ain't got to put on a performance. Not pretending, just be real with them. Just be real with them. If the womb trained you to leave before you get left, do the thing the womb told you to avoid. Stay. Have a hard conversation instead of going quiet. Choose to work through something instead of disappearing when it gets uncomfortable. If the womb trained you to hold back your best, because the last time you gave everything, you got burned, do the one thing the womb told you to avoid. Show up fully anyway. Not because the other person deserves it, not because they deserve it, because you do. Your best was never supposed to be held hostage by somebody else's reaction to it. If the womb trained you to never ask for help because it makes you look weak, do the one thing the womb told you to avoid. Make the call. Pick the one thing you've been grinding and going through alone and ask somebody for help. And do it this week. One call, that is, that one call. If the womb trains you to control everything because letting go means something bad happens, do the one thing the womb told you to avoid. Hand something off. Trust somebody with it. And don't follow up every 5 minutes to make sure they're doing it. They did it right. Hey, listen. Break the cycle today. Esau's story is the story of what happens when pain is never processed. One man's wound becomes a family's identity. A family's identity becomes a nation's culture. A nation's culture of inhaled contempt ended with a verdict. They were cut off forever. They were cut off forever. But you are not Edom. I didn't come here to tell you you're Edom. I just came to tell you what happened to Edom, but something different happen with you, because the verdict has not been written over your life. The pattern has been running, can be interrupted. Hurt people. This is true. But I also know that healed people build things. I want you to know what it feels like when the wound starts to close, when the energy that's locked up in the pain gets freed up for something else, when you stop repeating the building pattern and start building something that actually lasts. And that's why we gave you those 4 steps. So your action this week is work through the pattern breaking form work. Be honest, be specific. Again, we're going to give it to you again. Step 1, name the wound, not just who caused it, but the belief of it, the belief it created about you. Step 2, trace the repeating pattern backwards to its first moment. Step 3, break the agreement out loud, declare the belief is a lie. Step 4, identify one way to build in the opposite way of the womb this week. Okay. Again, that framework will also be on iamcliffwatson.com. And I want you to go and also download the Esau audit at iamcliffwatson.com. And remember, hurt people. but heal people, build things. If this episode hit home, share with somebody who is stuck in a pattern they can't seem to break. Leave a review and find me at iamcliffwatson.com. The next episode, we're talking about Jacob and why hustling hard is not enough when you're first forcing what God hasn't opened for you yet. Now, before I let you go, I need you to do a couple things. First, subscribe to Mind Your Business Podcast on YouTube. Mind Your Business Podcast that's our YouTube channel. That's where you get the full episodes. So I need you to go there, subscribe, make some comments about the episode, and then second, follow me at Mind Your Business on Facebook. Mind Your Business on Facebook, and I am Cliff Watson on Instagram. Those are where you get the clips and some updates and behind the scenes contents. Third, like this episode. Again, leave a review wherever you're listening. It takes 30 seconds to do that, and it helps more people find this content who need it. And then fourth, go to I Am Cliff Watson and download the Pattern Breaking Framework worksheet. It's free, and it will help you to do the work. Again, we got Mind Your Business. Stay tuned. We have Mind Your Business University coming. We have a lot of information coming in the near future about it. I won't bore you with it. But as we build on this podcast through business development, personal mastery, and spiritual maturity, we're going to go deeper at Mind Your Business University. Again, I am Cliff Watson, and thank you for tuning in with us at Mind Your Business, where we helped you build your business, master your lives, and hopefully mature spiritually. God bless you, and thanks for tuning in.